Hello, I'm Norleen Brown. I'm very proud to be Australia's first Ambassador for Ageing. In my role as Ambassador for Ageing, I like to encourage respect for older Australians. Australians' aged care providers and staff work very hard every day, but even with the best intentions, issues can occur. And if they do, we need to ensure that concerns are raised in a constructive and supported way. During this video, we'll be hearing from representatives of consumer and peak bodies, the National Aged Care Advocacy Program and the Aged Care Complaints Scheme. They'll be discussing what to do if there are concerns about the standard of care and services offered by aged care providers. When you're receiving aged care services, you have a right to raise any issue of concern you may have. We're lucky to live in a country where the rights of older people are taken seriously. There are national organisations interested in protecting the rights of aged care consumers. Let's hear from representatives of these organisations about your rights.
People need to be aware that when they're in aged care, they have the right to be treated with dignity and respect. A basic human right, but it's an important one.
There is actually a Charter of Residents' Rights and Responsibilities for people in residential aged care, which go through all of their rights. And also there's the Charter of Responsibility for people receiving community care.
This assistance is available right across the country to anybody who is a recipient of aged care services funded through the Commonwealth Government. People should remember, regardless of what their situation is, they do have a right to complain.
It's really important for everyone receiving aged care services to know their rights. You have the right to personal privacy, a safe environment, to be involved in decisions that affect you, to be treated with dignity and respect. You have the right to quality care that meets your needs. You have the right to complain and take steps to sort out any problems, and to advocacy support. The people and organisations who provide services to older Australians understand and respect those rights, and they would like to know if you have any concerns.
Most service providers actually welcome people saying, I think this is going wrong. Particularly, they don't know what all of their staff are doing all of the time, so, you need to raise it.
We have one of the most robust aged care accreditation systems anywhere in the world, and a provider has to meet all 44 of those outcomes at all times. So there's an absolute dedication and commitment from the industry to providing quality services.
It is a long-term relationship with your aged care provider. And I think accept that you are going to have ups and downs. And the only way to make it work is to actually talk about the issues.
For us, getting feedback, getting information is always important. So aged care providers understand the critical importance of listening to concerns, listening to issues, and responding to those as quickly as possible.
I know most of us don't like to complain or make a fuss, but not saying anything can make things worse for you and for other people. If you have a concern about the care you or someone else is receiving, it's important that you talk about it. A concern you have might relate to a problem that affects other people too, so your complaint can help others.
It could be something that's seemingly as trivial as the temperature of food. This is something we'll look into because this does impact on people's lives, all the way up to serious clinical matters. Each concern needs to be resolved.
If you think it's a good idea to have a chat, raise a concern, seek a bit more information, if you're thinking about it, then that's a good time to do it.
It's not about getting an individual into trouble because the individual actually wants to do the best anyway. So they're not going to be afraid of hearing your comments.
So something's troubling you and you've decided you want to bring the matter up because you want it fixed. How do you go about it? Well, there are several options open to you if you need to raise a concern with your aged care service provider. Let's hear again from our experts.
You'll get a quicker and more sustainable resolution of your concern if you take it up with a service provider.
I think most providers would say that their preference is, if you have a concern, that you take it up with the level of management that's appropriate for the concern. And they should always have explained to people how to raise a concern.
Every organisation will have a complaint system and a feedback system in their organisation, and it's simply a case of asking for one of the staff or the facility manager to make sure that that's brought to your attention.
Some people feel confident enough to take on their complaint and their process through the complaint scheme for themselves. Other people want to have an advocate with them, and the advocate acts to help them come to a resolution of their problem.
Advocacy services are free, confidential and independent. What do they involve? Well, an aged care advocate can support you in making decisions that affect your quality of life, provide you with information and advice about your rights and responsibilities, and discuss options for taking action. To access free advocacy, you need to receive Australian Government subsidised residential or community aged care, or have received these services in the past. Be representing the interests of a person receiving aged care services, or have been assessed by an aged care assessment team. There is a national aged care advocacy line. Just call 1800 700 600 and speak to one of the helpful staff. If you want to find your local state or territory advocacy agency, you can go online and visit www.health.gov.au/agedcareadvocacy. Rest assured your confidentiality will be respected, and there are interpreter services available. In most cases, raising your concern with your service provider will solve the issue. But if the matter is not resolved to your satisfaction, you can take your concern to the Aged Care Complaints Scheme.
The Aged Care Complaints Scheme is a free scheme that's available to anybody who wishes to make a complaint about the care that somebody is receiving in Australian government subsidised aged care.
So we have complaints that can come through, they can come in by mail, we can have complaints come in through email, or also through our phone line. They then come to me and I make contact with the person who made the complaint. After that comes through, I then work with the approved provider and we work together to come up with some outcomes that are going to be mutually beneficial.
Now, whether that's going to be talking to them about assisting them to resolve the issue back at local level, or whether the complaint scheme actually need to get involved.
If a person's unsure whether they can access the scheme to make a complaint and seek to have that resolved, then they can always ring the scheme's toll-free number and ask whether the home that the person is in or the care the person is in is Australian government subsidised.
So what areas can the Aged Care Complaints Scheme look at on your behalf? Well, the environment in which your care is being delivered, the quality of personal and health care, the security of a person receiving care, the variety or quality of the food offered, abuse, activities undertaken by a person in care, the laundry services, and the care provider's internal complaints process. There are some things the scheme is not responsible for. For instance, the scheme cannot provide legal advice, say who should make financial, legal or health decisions on behalf of a care recipient, comment on industrial matters such as wages or employment conditions, ask employers to fire somebody, investigate causes of deaths and provide clinical advice such as what is the most suitable medicine for a care recipient. Many older Australians receive care and support in their own home rather than residential aged care. How does the Aged Care Complaints Scheme support them?
If you wish to make a complaint or raise a concern about the services you're provided under HAC, you should take it up with the service provider in the first instance. But if you still have concerns, then you can take those concerns up with the scheme. If you're not sure whether you're receiving Commonwealth subsidised HAC services, then you can call the scheme and the scheme can work through that with you.
One of the major concerns people have about speaking up relates to confidentiality. So let's hear what the experts have to tell us about this.
When you approach the scheme, there are 3 ways that you can make a complaint, and the officers on the phone line can discuss this with you at the time. You can make a complaint openly, which means that the scheme knows your name, and in seeking to resolve the complaint with the service provider, we will share your name with them. You can also make a complaint confidentially, which means that the scheme knows your name, but we won't share your name with the service provider. You can also make a complaint anonymously.
The biggest problem with raising anonymous complaints is that no one can give you feedback. So, they can go along and try to resolve it, but they can't necessarily really resolve it without actually having that discussion about, did this work?
Because the process of getting the problem solved is resolution, it needs both parties to be there to be willing to resolve it.
We'll take very seriously any matter, any issue that an individual raises, and if people would like to make anonymous complaints, then there's a system in place to deal with that. We just have a little less ability naturally to deal with those ones if we don't know the nature of the particular concern.
There's a lot of information available to help you learn more about the Aged Care Complaints Scheme. There's a brochure, a booklet and several fact sheets. Our brochure is also available in 17 different languages. You can either order online from agedcarecomplaints.govspace.gov.au or you can call 026269 1000. If you're still not sure what the scheme can and cannot do, please call 1800 550 552 or visit agedcarecomplaints.govspace.gov.au. If you need an interpreter, tell us when you call and we'll arrange to use the translating and interpreting service. As we've learned, there's a network of organisations dedicated to ensuring that people receiving aged care services are appropriately supported in raising their concerns. It's also comforting to know that service providers encourage people to raise concerns about the care and services they receive. If you ever have concerns about the care you or someone else is receiving, please don't remain silent. By speaking up, you will help to build a higher level of aged care services for all older Australians.